Welcome back to another episode of the Extreme Lifestyle Living Podcast. I'm your Thursday host, Emma. Let's get into this week's episode. This week, we're focusing on getting back to the basics. Now, this is also a big focus with my clients this week as well, kind of coming out of Thanksgiving and just sort of this switch in season, switch in time, switch in weather. That's for sure. It's freezing here right now. And people are kind of feeling the effects from that, right? So what I mean by focusing on the basics and getting back to those basics is getting back to your non-negotiables, getting back to those basic daily tasks that you know are going to make you feel your best and that you know are going to help you get you that much closer to your goals. Now, I'm not talking about perfection here. I'm basically never talking about perfection, actually. The basics is something that's so important, especially if you're just starting your fitness journey, getting back into your fitness journey after some time away, or even just you've gone through a little bit of like a rough patch where you weren't as consistent as you normally would be. This is a great time for you to really get back to those basics, master those, focus on those small wins that you are making, like I talked about on last week's episode, and really start building that momentum for yourself. Basics are so important because they're foundational, they're sustainable, and they create consistency. Now, a lot of times where people get tripped up when it comes to their fitness journey, when it comes to their healthy habits, or just making a lifestyle change, and this doesn't even have to do with fitness or the gym specifically, it can be with other habits in life or just other things that people have going on in their lives. People often tend to develop this all or nothing mindset or put this all or nothing pressure on themselves where they feel like you need to be perfect every step of the way. And I've definitely felt like this before where I felt like I needed to go to the gym 7 days a week. I needed to hit my macros 10 out of 10 every single day. I needed to go to bed at the exact same time, wake up at the exact same time, and just make sure I was doing all of those things to a T. And I just felt so much pressure that I had to do everything perfectly. Even when it came to my workouts, like my form had to be perfect. Every workout had to feel fantastic. I would get really upset or kind of down on myself if I had one of those workout days where you're just not really feeling it as much, right? And that happens. That's perfectly normal where sometimes you'll go into the gym, you'll do your workout and it just doesn't feel as good as it normally would. But I used to kind of take that and sort of take that as a negative thing and take that as maybe I'm not doing enough or maybe I need to do something different. And I would kind of go into this spirally sort of mindset. And I think a lot of times people get caught up in this where maybe one thing doesn't go exactly according to plan. Like I said about the workouts, maybe your workout didn't feel super great. So then you just decide to be lazy for the rest of the day, or then you decide to take tomorrow off the gym because it just didn't feel right today when it wasn't supposed to be a rest day or something like that. It's when you start throwing things out the window because one thing didn't go right. And I think a very relatable thing when it comes to this all or nothing mentality is in terms of nutrition. We've all been there before. I've been there before. Let's say you want to start eating really healthy and you do it for a couple days and then something comes up that kind of throws you off track. Whether that's you go through a drive-through, you go to an event or a party or something like that where there's foods that you weren't normally choosing or foods you didn't want to be eating and you have some of that food and then you're almost like, okay, well the rest of the day I can kind of eat whatever because I've already ruined it by eating pizza at this event, or I've already ruined it by going out to brunch with the girls. So I might as well get a pizza for dinner and garlic fingers as well. And I think the all or nothing mentality really applies to a lot of people when they start at the gym too. A lot of times when women come to me and we start discussing in terms of their program and starting out, they want to do so much so fast right at the beginning. It's within the first week, they want to be crushing their macros 100%. They want to work out every single day. They want to do cardio. They want to train core. They want to do the mental health exercises and they want to just do so much. When a lot of times as a coach, I need to have this conversation with women where it's okay, yes, those are great that you want to do all these things, but we need to take slower, sustainable steps and approaches to get you to that point. Because you try to just make these huge, drastic jumps right away, starting from a lot of times the bare minimum or starting from nothing type of thing, it's going to be too much and you're not going to be able to sustain this long term. Which is why things like fad diet, quick workout programs, 30-day slim, all that sort of stuff doesn't really stick because you have to do so much and such an intense thing in a short period of time that it's not really realistic that you can keep that up for the rest of your life. So that's why I really love encouraging and empowering my clients to really develop that mindset and that understanding that starting small and building on these basics and building on these habits is actually the sustainable way to do this and to make these changes. Doing things the slow way or taking things step by step, focusing on these basics is actually the way that they're going to get to their goals and be able to maintain those goals more long term, especially when it comes to weight loss. Like if you're restricting yourself like crazy and you kind of have that all or nothing mentality where you're not eating carbs, you're not eating sugar and all this kind of crazy stuff, you're fasting, you're not going to be able to keep that up for the rest of your life. Like you can't tell me you're not going to be able to never eat sugar again. You're never going to eat carbs again. And you're always going to be fasting for a certain amount of time every day. Like that is just not sustainable. So a lot of times what happens is people will lose weight in those types of scenarios or with that type of plan or program or routine that they're following. But then a lot of times, as soon as you stop doing those things, all of that weight in progress kind of comes right back, right? And it's a very discouraging thing too, because it's so hard to do those things and you put so much effort and time into doing those things and you give it your all to get to that point, and then all of a sudden it slowly fades away again. The reality is you didn't learn those basics and you didn't really develop those habits and that routine and those healthy habits within your lifestyle that you can actually sustain moving forward throughout your life. So things like cutting out carbs for good, never eating sugar again, those are not things that you are going to be able to sustain long term. So why would your results be sustained long term if you can't keep up with the recipe or with the formula that got you to that place? And it's frustrating to feel that. Like it's so frustrating to feel like you're putting so much effort in and you're not seeing any results. You're spinning your tires. You feel like you give so much out and then you just see nothing in return. And that's a really frustrating and discouraging thing, which a lot of times knocks people back and sets them back on their journey or gets them out of the gym for a while. They fall out of that routine. So that's why it's so important to focus on these basics and really try to rid yourself of that all or nothing mentality and that all or nothing mindset, because it really doesn't serve you. Instead of thinking you need to make these crazy, drastic, long lists of changes and things that you have to adhere to and follow, foods you can eat, foods you can't eat. Instead of all that, success in fitness and success in your fitness journey and your overall health journey and becoming your hottest, happiest, healthiest self actually comes from smaller, steady actions that you do on a daily basis consistently over and over again that are going to get you those results and get you to feel like your hottest, happiest, healthiest self, versus those drastic, short-lived efforts that are just bursts every now and then that you can't keep up with and can't sustain. And when you think about basics starting at the gym, it can be things as simple as, if you're brand new to the gym, chances are as a coach, I'm not going to be putting you under a barbell and asking you to perform a barbell squat, right? We're going to be starting with a basic movement. Sometimes we're even just starting with a box squat, something like that, to really work yourself up to and prime your body to be able to do this and to be able to do these movements. So we're not jumping to something so drastic and so extreme right away. And the same thing can be said for every other part of your journey as well. Mastering the basic movements and getting really comfortable with those is not only going to help you be that much more successful, but it's also going to help you build that confidence. Because if you feel confident in yourself and what you're doing in the gym, the movements you're performing, how it feels, you're going to be that much more likely to stick with it long term and get that much closer to your goals. Now, the basics doesn't just have to be when it comes to movement patterns in the gym or exercises in the gym. Basics can be making sure that you're hydrated every day, making sure that you're hitting a certain amount of steps every day, making sure that you're meal prepping on a weekly basis. These are some of those basics and those non-negotiables that you can start incorporating into your everyday life and your lifestyle to help you build those habits. A great example of basics is just really incorporating the habit of daily movement. And the basics for you is going to be different than everybody else. For someone, maybe the basics for them is just not sitting as much each day. Maybe one of your basics is starting to go for a walk on your lunch break. Not only will that help benefit your mental health, but that'll also help you to get those steps in as well. So I'm going to give you some examples of some basics or non-negotiables that will help you make up and build a strong foundation. Now that can be as simple as going for a walk. It can be doing a stretching routine, Maybe you go to a workout class, maybe you go to the gym for a workout, but taking intentional time for yourself to move your body. Hydration is another big one. Now, this is a simple one you may think, but this is often so overlooked. So start small. If you typically only have 1 or 2 glasses of water, try to just add 1 extra glass. And then once you get comfortable with that, add 2 extra glasses and just really start increasing things from there. For nutrition, the basics and non-negotiables for yourself, maybe just meal prepping every day. Maybe a non-negotiable for you is only eating out once a week. Maybe a non-negotiable for you is making sure you hit your protein goal every day. So this is going to look different for every person. But like I said, it's about focusing on those small habits and not these huge drastic changes and drastic goals that you're trying to achieve all at once. Another basic that I'm so big on but is often overlooked is in terms of self-care, a morning routine and evening routines, incorporating a skincare routine, or even as simple as just prioritizing your sleep. Trying to get those 8 hours of sleep every night for yourself and working on an evening routine that's going to help you get there. Focusing and practicing these basics and these habits and non-negotiables on a daily and weekly basis will help you to gain consistency and gain momentum and become that much closer to being your happiest, hottest, healthiest self and feeling your absolute best. Building this strong foundation is going to lead you to have more success in the long term than if you're trying to jam all these drastic changes into a short period of time where you're really not able to sustain them and you're just constantly falling behind or falling out of that routine. So instead, focus on building these basics and building these habits and stacking them on top of each other and gradually making small changes, improvements, and additions to these habits and basics so that you can make that progress that's going to last you long term. Getting back to the basics is something we all need to kind of check in with ourselves and take a little moment to understand and think about where we are in terms of this. Do you feel like you've kind of lost sight of what your basics are, what your non-negotiables are? Maybe you're looking to start a new routine or you're looking to get back into a routine after some time off. I really challenge you to take a look at what your basics are, what your non-negotiables are. And like I said, start small with these habits and with these routines and things that you're starting to implement, and then over time increase them so that you're that much more successful long term at building a sustainable routine that works for you. So I want everyone listening to this to choose one basic habit for you to implement this week. And I challenge you to drop me a DM, send me a message, and let me know what your basic is that you're implementing for yourself this week. That's it for this week's episode. Thank you again for tuning in to another Thursday episode of the Extreme Lifestyle Living podcast. Be sure to check out Trey's podcast episodes every Monday. You can listen anywhere you get your podcasts, and you can also watch our video episodes on YouTube. I'll see you next Thursday.